What if Cody, Obi Wan, and the 212th Legion on Utapau never received Order 66? That's our story for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. As a reminder, you can check out the second channel, which has lore videos being uploaded, as well as become a member for just 99 cents a month. Thanks everyone, and let's get right into it. Our story begins inside of the Chancellor's office, as Darth Sidious has just watched his new apprentice, Darth Vader, walk out of the room and begin heading towards the Jedi Temple. Finally, after decades of waiting, the revenge of the Sith is here. Sidious has been manipulating Anakin for years, and today, it all came together. As Sidious was at the mercy of Windu, all he had to do was remind Anakin of Padme, and Anakin was caught in the dark side web. Sidious smiled to himself. He had no real intention of saving Padme. Perhaps her child could be the Sith that replaces Skywalker someday. But overall, Sidious didn't care at all about the people close to Anakin. In fact, his only real fear was that his friends could bring him back to the light. So Sidious decided it was time for Order 66, but he did not call to Utapau first. This time, Sidious focused on the Venator where Ahsoka, Rex, and Maul were. This was important. He personally called for Rex, and he waited. And aboard the Venator carrying Ahsoka, Maul, and the 501st, Rex went to retrieve new orders, and he would quickly receive Order 66. But after giving Order 66, Sidious also ordered Rex not to hesitate, show no mercy, and any thoughts of helping Ahsoka quickly disappeared. Ahsoka entered the room, and Rex turned quickly, blasting a hole right through Ahsoka's heart, catching her off guard, and she fell backwards, dead. Sidious smiled, then told them to go kill Maul. On Utapau, in the mere minutes that went by, as Sidious went to Rex first, something happened in space. A group of clone commandos were assigned on a special mission to retrieve a huge kyber crystal for a future project for the Chancellor. Utapau was home to many of these crystals, but as the commandos flew away with it, they were caught in separatist crossfire. As their ship rocked heavily, the crystal became unsteady, quickly exploded in space, and this explosion completely destroyed the long-range communication satellites, allowing no communications in or out of Utapau. From Coruscant, after confirming Ahsoka was dead, Sidious would send one mass message out to all of the clones: execute Order 66. And he sent it right as the Utapau satellite went out, so records showed that Utapau received the order, and Sidious sat back, feeling the wave of darkness overcoming the galaxy. Back on Utapau, Obi Wan Kenobi was helping a group of clones concerned by droids when he was hit by a disturbing wave in the Force. At first it was just a bad feeling, but within seconds, Obi Wan felt darkness like never before. He was so focused on the battle that he didn't feel Anakin's fall to the dark side, but now he could feel Anakin and the rest of the Jedi Order be completely wiped out by this darkness. It was a great disturbance, as if thousands of voices cried out for help and were suddenly silenced. Obi-Wan ran down to find Cody, and he asked to be patched in to speak with the Jedi Council. Cody said that unfortunately, all communications have been wiped out from Utapau, and they'll have to get to hyperspace in order to make new communications. Obi-Wan nodded, and in a more serious voice than ever, he ordered Cody to get his men into a full retreat. Grievous is dead, and this battle suddenly means absolutely nothing. Cody asked what was going on, and Obi-Wan shook his head, saying he's not quite sure, but something was terribly wrong. He just wasn't sure what, or he was too scared to admit what it was. So he would go by the water and go deep into meditation while Cody and his men were retreating. And as Obi-Wan felt for Anakin, he could only feel darkness. And in a vision, evil laughter rang out as Obi-Wan watched a blue blade slice through innocent Jedi, innocent children. He opened his eyes with a frantic gasp, getting to space as the Republic ships jumped to hyperspace. Once out of Utapau's orbit, communications were slowly being back online, and Obi-Wan opened up the secret Jedi Council frequency, hoping to contact any of the members in the temple. Obi-Wan knew that Windu, Kolar, Tin, Fisto, and Shakti were all at the temple still, and soon enough, Shakti alone answered his call. She was alone in the meditation chamber, and Obi-Wan asked what is going on. Shakti said she is trying to find the answers as well, as she too has felt something terrible. And then she opened her eyes, feeling a sudden presence in the Force, but before she could act, a blue lightsaber ignited through her spine as she fell dead to the floor. The hologram of Shakti was now replaced with a hooded man, shrouded in darkness. Obi-Wan could not see his face, but he looked down, seeing the lightsaber. and Obi-Wan barely was able to whisper, "Anakin." And in the temple, Anakin couldn't bear to look in the hologram. A single tear rolled down his face, and he told himself that Obi-Wan was a treasonous Jedi, just like the rest of them. And Obi-Wan said through his own tears that it is not too late to come back. But Anakin closed his eyes, and without saying a word, jammed his saber into the holo projector. Kenobi was gone, for now, and Darth Vader would continue his crusade through the temple. Aboard the Venator, Obi-Wan dropped to his knees as Cody was standing at the door. He saw all of it. But Cody also heard the blaster fire in the background, along with commands being shouted out by clones. And he remembered something. Fives. Rex told him all about Fives and the inhibitor chips. Obi-Wan gathered himself as Cody asked him to follow him, and the two of them went and viewed the records of Fives' death, and how Rex described the chips as possibly having a greater purpose. Obi-Wan turned to Cody, asking if there was a way to remove the chips, and so the rest of the hyperspace trip would be spent by all 5 Venators seeing their 10,000 men rotate into the medical bays and have automated surgery performed on them to remove the chips. Every single clone of the 212th Legion quickly learned that the rest of their men had been brainwashed into killing the Jedi, led by Anakin Skywalker, and they were currently heading to Coruscant for battle. Obi-Wan wondered if it would be better for them all to go into hiding, but Cody convinced him that the 501st will be weakened and tired from their siege on the temple. The time to fight back is now, and perhaps there are still some surviving Jedi hiding away on Coruscant. Obi-Wan agreed, and together, he and his men prepared to defend the Republic before it could turn into an empire. Because Obi-Wan and the 212th left Utapau almost immediately, they were set to arrive back to Coruscant much earlier than anyone would have expected. Inside of the Jedi Temple, Anakin was cutting down a handful of Jedi Knights trying to escape out of a hidden exit, and he began making his way towards the Great Hall, where Darth Sidious was now waiting for him. Anakin found his master, kneeling down in front of him, telling him that it is done. The Jedi Temple has been freed of the traitorous Jedi. Sidious said this was good, and he told Anakin he feels something, perhaps some conflict in him. Sidious recalled that not long ago, Captain Rex and his half of the 501st Legion returned to Coruscant. Ahsoka and Maul were dead, but Anakin said it was something else. Anakin looked up, saying that Obi-Wan was speaking to Shakti when he killed her. He saw Obi-Wan on a hologram, but when the time comes, he will be ready to kill his former master. Sidious said it will be a true test, but now he must go to the Mustafar system, wipe out the Separatist leaders, so this war can finally come to an end. And above Coruscant, the Republic Venators of the 212th Legion emerged from hyperspace. The Republic blockade was soft and weak after the attack on Coruscant, followed by many troops having to go down to the temple for Order 66. So Obi-Wan and Cody were able to get their Venators into the Coruscant atmosphere, and Cody asked what their next move was going to be. Obi-Wan looked down out of the bridge window. The temple was crumbling and on fire. A new era of the Jedi would have to begin, and Obi-Wan had a feeling that the Sith were inside of the temple. He watched Anakin kill Shakti, and had a vision of him slaughtering children. So Obi-Wan closed his eyes, and he told Cody to have his men fire on the temple, destroy it. There were no Jedi left inside. Cody didn't hesitate, and in seconds, the heavy cannons from 3 Republic Venators aimed, firing down at the temple. Moments before they fired, Vader and Sidious were exiting the temple together, and they looked up through the morning sunrise to see the Republic Venators closer in the atmosphere than they should be. Sidious tried to contact this Venator, but before he could, they began firing down. Heavy volleys of firepower slammed into the temple, over and over again, and the explosions sent both Vader and Sidious flying through the air as huge pieces of the temple were flying all around them. The Republic blockade quickly realized what was happening, and they turned on the 212th Venators and began firing. A mini civil war was erupting above Coruscant, as Venators were now firing at each other. As Obi-Wan watched the temple blow up, he felt the Venator he was in begin to shake, as they were taking heavy firepower from behind. Cody and Obi-Wan ordered everyone to evacuate and regroup on the ground, where the temple once stood. Alarms began blaring as the Venators turned around and began firing off return fire at the 212th Legion. And so, as Obi-Wan, Cody, and the clones evacuated to the surface, the Sith were trying to recover on the ground. Vader slowly stood up from underneath a statue that nearly crushed him to death, and he began to look around. The temple was gone. Now it was just a giant pile of rubble. Clearly this was an effort to kill him, but right now, Vader felt invincible. He felt like he held the entire galaxy in his hands. He could not die. And he looked around to see his master, Darth Sidious, calling out for him. Sidious had his legs crushed under a huge piece of the temple wall and was struggling to get free. Anakin looked at him with disappointment. He knew right now he was already more powerful than Sidious. He'd told Anakin it was his destiny to be the heir to the power of the Sith. And so Vader decided today was the day that he would take over. He lifted the statue that nearly crushed him, throwing it at Sidious. And Sidious managed to blast lightning into it, crushing the statue, screaming at Vader that he's making a terrible mistake. Sidious used his full power to push the wall off of him, but now Vader picked him up, throwing him into a nearby fire. Sidious barely crawled out, his legs still completely crushed and mangled, and Anakin lifted his burned body, choking him, and he told Sidious the Sith will rule under him forever, before igniting his saber through Sidious's chin and out of his skull. He died, and Vader threw him back into the fire to discard of the body, as the 501st Legion quickly returned from their barracks after seeing the temple explode. The 501st knew that Vader and Palpatine were here, but upon their arrival, Anakin informed Oppo and Rex and the 501st that Obi Wan and the 212th killed Palpatine. He was the Emperor now, and they must kill Kenobi, plus his men. So, on the Republic Hangar Bay, the spot where the millions of clones first launched into the galaxy after Geonosis, Darth Vader and the 501st, led by Captain Rex, marched together as Obi Wan and the 212th Legion, led by Commander Cody, marched to meet them head-on. As everyone came to a stop, Vader tried calling out to Obi Wan, telling him to surrender right now, and they can avoid needless bloodshed. Palpatine is gone, and he is stepping in as Emperor of the Galaxy. The war is over. There can finally be true peace in his new empire. Obi-Wan heard Cody mumble, "Empire," and Obi-Wan called back to Anakin, telling him he does not want to fight, but he and his men will do what they must to protect the peace, justice, and freedom of this democracy. And Anakin said, "So be it," then raised his saber as Rex, Oppo, Jesse, and the 501st readied their weapons, and Anakin began running forward, yelling, "For the Empire!" And Obi-Wan ran in with his men as they yelled, "For the Republic!" And the Republic Hangar Bay, with its wide openness and vastness, now served as the grim stage for this gruesome battle. The smooth steel floor stretched out for miles, and was quickly filled with the sounds of thousands of boots running into battle. The quick clash of blue lightsabers would light up the hangar, as Anakin and Obi-Wan charged at each other, clashing blades between the heavy blaster fire from the 212th and 501st. Captain Rex led the 501st into the battle, his inhibitor chip working well, with his blasters firing with accuracy. Oppo and Jesse were right behind him, coordinating the rest of their troops together. The 501st moved with great precision, using crates and columns for cover as they laid down heavy fire. And on the other side, Commander Cody directed his men with as much courage as he could find within himself, countering the 501st's aggressive tactics with defensive maneuvers of his own. The 212's formations were tight, their firepower focused and effective, but clone after clone fell for both sides, their armor scorched by blaster bolts, the ground quickly becoming littered with the fallen. The battle raged on with intensity. It was both awe-inspiring and horrific. Explosions echoed through the hangar, sending shockwaves that rattled the structures. Smoke and debris filled the air, mixing with the cries of the wounded and dying clones. The clash of sabers between Anakin and Obi-Wan was relentless, each blow getting louder as the sound of blaster fire got quieter as more clones fell every second. Anakin fought with his newfound powers and darkness, his strikes extremely powerful and aggressive. Obi-Wan was a perfect example, though, of control and precision. Each clash and deflection was him learning more about his new enemy, and he could tell Anakin was arrogant. He killed all the Jedi in the temple. He killed Sidious. But no one knew him better than Obi-Wan. Their duel was a perfectly matched, stark contrast to the brutal chaos unfolding around them. Rex, his helmet scorched and bruised and battered, continued to lead his men with his strong determination. He was fully convinced that what he was doing was right. The Jedi were traitors, and anyone who sided with them had to die. Cody continued to rally his own troops, despite the horrors of it all. The 212th held their ground, the ranks weathering the storm of the 501st. Every inch of the hangar was contested fiercely, each side gaining and losing ground in a brutal, bloody tug of war. As Rex moved in with Oppo and Jesse, both of them were caught in an explosion, as they died with another group of clones. Rex was hit in the shoulder, and he fell to the ground as another explosion went off near him, shattering the side of his helmet, burning into his head. And this explosion fried his inhibitor chip. So as Rex slowly looked back up, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. It was like everything was in slow motion. His brothers, the men he fought with every day, were slaughtering each other. It was like Umbara, but worse. So much worse. The sound of blasters, death, screams. Rex looked around and saw Cody limping in battle, and Rex dove forward, tackling Cody to the ground. Cody looked at him, realizing it was Rex, not the inhibitor chip any longer. And Rex remembered the temple, the younglings, the horrors, and he told Cody they must end this. So they got back up, both of them bruised and falling apart as they fired on the 501st men. Rex knew it was better to put them out of their misery of being controlled by the chips than to have them unwillingly serve an empire. The two of them fired as the clones waned down, and in the end, there were only around 100 of them left. The 212th won the battle. Rex and Cody fell over from the horrors of it all, looking around to find Skywalker and Kenobi. Anakin and Obi Wan were both exhausted by this point, and they were flying around, jumping on top of ships, dueling through the hangar. The fight was so even, and Obi Wan was about to jump up and try to claim the high ground when Anakin was able to slice into Obi Wan's leg, pushing him to the ground. Anakin marched towards his former master, lifting his blade for the kill, when suddenly Cody, Rex, and the surviving members of the 212th yelled at Anakin to stand down or die. Anakin told them that he is their emperor, and they are all committing treason. But Rex and Cody both said they serve no empire. They are soldiers of the Republic, and they will do what they must. Anakin turned, calling their bluff, but the clones were not lying. As soon as Anakin became a threat, they all fired at him. Anakin blocked the first 20 or so shots, but he was exhausted, heavily outnumbered. No one would be able to fight this off. Rex hit him in the hand, then Cody hit him in the chest, and Anakin stumbled backwards, falling to the ground right next to Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan looked to his student, his eyes gleaming yellow, but slowly fading back to blue, and Obi-Wan told Anakin he has failed him. He is sorry. Anakin couldn't speak, and he died here as Obi-Wan was helped up, looking upon the massacre that occurred. Thousands of clones in blue and gold armor covered the ground, and together, the survivors walked towards the torn-down temple as the Tantive 4 was landing, with Bail Organa and Grandmaster Yoda inside of it. Within hours, the Senate was waiting for Palpatine, but instead, Bail Organa, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, Cody, and Rex floated to the center in a pod and began telling the truth of what has happened over the last 24 hours. Obi-Wan began by saying that the Council has been investigating the Sith, the ancient enemy of the Jedi, and they had reason to believe Palpatine was the Sith Lord working with Dooku. And so when he revealed the truth to Anakin, the Jedi made a move. Yoda spoke now, saying he was aware that Windu was taking the Jedi to arrest Palpatine, but he was fine with this. They could not risk the Sith, who had control of the courts and the Republic, remain in control. The Jedi knew the political risks, but they deemed it necessary. And Bail Organa spoke, saying that Palpatine ordered the genocide of the Jedi, and it was carried out unwillingly by the clones. Cody and Rex presented the inhibitor chips, describing how they were used to turn on the Jedi. So now the Senate knew why everything happened, and big decisions loomed for the Republic. Mas Amedda declared the Jedi be exiled from the Republic, at least for the time being, while the clones undergo mass inhibitor chip removal. Mas was doing what he could to remain in power, and the Senate was in agreement. Soon, Obi-Wan and Yoda would leave Coruscant after Kenobi had a heartfelt goodbye with the clones, and the two Jedi would go off into the galaxy on different paths. Yoda decided his time as Grand Master was over, so he went into exile, focusing on his training with Qui-Gon, while Obi-Wan was deemed worthy of rebuilding the Order. Obi-Wan would first visit Naboo, where Padme Amidala gave a healthy birth, and was now living with her family, away from politics. She was heartbroken, but happy to see Obi-Wan was alright, and the Jedi Master would soon set off into the galaxy, with his new mission of rebuilding the Jedi Order. And folks, that is where our story comes to an end. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. It went down a path I didn't know it was going to take when I first started coming up with the idea of having the ginormous battle between Obi-Wan, Anakin, 501st, and 212th. Now, I debated it for a while because would Obi-Wan and the 212th actually fight and kill their own brothers? But at the end of the day, I think maybe yes, because the Republic is being shifted into an empire, and they've got to kind of do something about it. You know, it's the 212th's duty to fight for the Republic, even if their enemies are now clones. So it's unfortunate, but I think that's what would happen. Also, I had a lot of fun writing that huge battle. Very cool. Yeah, just as for the rest of the story, I decided to have it start with Palpatine just first calling Ahsoka and having Ahsoka die, just so we can have the storyline with Rex throughout the story there. So rest in peace, Ahsoka. Sucks. Otherwise, appreciate you guys for listening. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you want to see next. Become a member. Subscribe to the second channel. We got lore videos. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.